Oh, all right. We are live. Welcome to the channel. In this video, this is a live stream of the just-func project, stream number 5. And between this and the last live stream, I have worked on the code for a while and adding a bunch of stuff. And so in this stream, I will roughly go over what I have done, and then also the focus of this stream is to refactor the code so that it's ready for the next step. And I'll talk about the next step in the videos. So without further ado, let's get started. All right. Yes, this seems to still have some problem with this stream. I don't know what's going on recently, but we will keep going and see how it goes. Wow, that was quite a lag. But anyway, so let's continue. So let's first go over what we have here now. So what I've done is basically implement some math functions, so to get our hands wet, basically to fill in some basic logic and so that you know, we can start have some fun doing some math problems, and then also through working on those I was able to flush out some of the system and the tests and so on. So on the map, we cover basic things. So we cover the add, subtract, multiply, divide, and mod. And then also on the divide, as in the ellipse family, we're using the ratio to actually capture the ratio. So it's kind of like in closure. So on the lower right corner right here, you see the I'm running a closure repo, so that say when you do divide 1 by 5, you instead of getting 0.2, you're getting the ratio 1 over 5. So the 1 is the numerator, the 5 is the numerator and denominator, right? So I did the same over here, and so as you know, right now I'm implementing all that in PHP. And in the future, this will be ported to other languages and so on. So the thing is, if I can implement this in PHP, well, pretty much sure that I can implement it in other languages. So, to show the code a little bit is over here. So what I have, for example, this is the divide class. And then in the invoke, just doing some error handling, and then over here it was checking if it is a ratio, and then it do some different calculation. Let's say, for example, for add, it was doing things like this, and then for multiply, it's doing something like this. It's different, right? It depends on what kind of functions that you invoking. So that on design wise created a problem, right? Although for this language, I'm not planning and not foreseeing there would be many different types, but having a code written like this is still not good, right? So right now I have the 5 different functions, again, add, subtract, multiply, divide, and mod, and each of them needs to handle the ratio in their code. And so you can imagine if we have another type, like say real number, right? That, or basically I mean real number versus complex number, then we need to further complicate this code, right? We don't really want that. So that in this video, that's one of the objectives we try to clean up. And then another objective is to basically cleaning up this code a little bit, so that, well, so that we're able to achieve what I just talked about. So that means, well, actually, before I get into that, right now the interpreter is using the execution context and then passing in the handlers, essentially. The handlers, what kind of handlers will do different things, and so this is just a map. And so when a particular keyword is hit, then it knows which one to use, right? The streaming is pretty bad. The streaming is pretty bad. Really don't know what's going on, why it's doing that. Yeah, the frame drop is pretty bad. Well, the FPS is bad. Let's see. Give me a second. I don't know if I change the settings in the middle of the stream, will it, you know, what will happen? But we try that. Okay, basically I'm reducing some test settings, and hopefully that will make the stream a little bit better. Okay, but for now, let's continue. So that's one thing to change. So what I'm going to do is to convert this to based on types, right? It's kind of OO, but it's not really OO, and I purposely want to stay away from OO. So to explain what I mean, we can take a look at any function. Say for example this not, right? Although in PHP, you know, everything all of these things are organized by class, but I'm not really using it as a class, right? Everything in here are just static functions. And the first thing, when you see static function, the first things that should pop in your mind, the first question is, what then? How about testing, right? Because as you might know, right, static function, if you use static functions, a lot of times it means that your code can be tested. It's hard to test, but it's not in this case, because I know what's the problem with the static methods. So what I have is basically using all these as pure functions, right? I pass all the dependencies in the during invoke. So, well, when the function is called, so I don't have the downside of a static method, right? So essentially, this kind of is the same thing that why nowadays I'm less against singleton, because of the same thing. Because if you know what you're doing, you can get around it. You can still use it efficiently. But anyway, back to here. You know, I like to I like to go sideways, sidetracked it. So back to here is, you know, we always define a key, and then we define some functions, like say for example this invoke, which will be invoked by the execution context. And then there are other functions, say for example in this ratio I have a create, and then also have a unbox function. So to talk a little bit about the unbox is that during test I realized what happened is when you execute the just-func code, at the end, at the very end, what you want to get is the final value, right? Say for example divide 1 by 5, right? You don't want to get a result of ratio 1 by 5, right? You want to get 0.2 as a number, so that you can use it in other language, right? So but during tests and also during internal manipulation, in order for the code to be composable, you can nest the statement and continue working, you need to keep the type. You need to keep the type during the execution. So therefore, I have separated the interpreter to provide, well, not really separated, just provide two functions. One is called execute, which will do what it was doing. At the end, it will do this unboxing, which would turn the ratio to a number or turn a list to an array. But at the same time, I also provide this evaluate function, which will just, you know, return the just-func expression at the end. Right. So with that, my tests become a lot easier to validate. Say for example, like this. Right. This is a test in the ratio test. And this is saying that, okay, if the ratio I'm specifying having another ratio in here, what I get is a ratio of 1/6, and instead of, you know, the decimal numbers, because I purposely want to make sure the structure is still intact, right? So I can do this. And another thing I did is you know, I created a test case that's specifically for interpreter, because, you know, I need to reuse it many times, right? So I go ahead and did that. So I have it extend from the PHP unit test case, and then just adding some basic functions. And one thing about this is I was thinking about using a traits. Right? I can in PHP there is a concept of traits that you can inject something, some functionality into a certain class, and then you can reuse it. But it's good to use that in certain case, and I was thinking about using this, and at my work, I actually have some traits that define for similar purpose. However, over here, I didn't do it because in PHP, the traits still have some funky stuff, weird limitation in terms of how the things is shared. Oh, by the way, you can think of the traits as a mixin. So that's how it works. Of course, there are other language also have this traits capability. So anyway, that's what I did here. And so that have this test execute function, and then also this test evaluate function. And originally I have this test evaluate result and this test execute result, but now after I create this, I realized, you know, most of the time I just need that. Just need these two functions, and essentially mostly just this test evaluate. I don't even care about the execute, because, well, the execute is used, you know, very rarely, like say over here, so that I can make sure that things are back to what it is when it is when it is unboxed. But actually, that's missing a test here. So let me actually add a test. Floating. Just say number is fine. Okay, so then I say test execute, and then what I'm expect is say 1.5. Well, actually I have that test in the divide, so I don't really need this test, but you know, as I see I don't have it, it doesn't really hurt to add it in, right? So 1 divided by 2 ratio, and I should get that. And it fell? No, don't tell me that it fell. Oh, 0.5. Yeah, so there you go. Okay, so that's what we have. So we add that test in. And by the way, one more thing is just to share in Windows, the way I find the best way to use the Clojure is to use the PowerShell. I'm not going to go too deep into the detail of it, but if you go to the Clojure website and take a look at how to install in Windows, it talks about this, and so you can use this. This was what I would also recommend, because you can see that here I do that, it run it in Clojure, so then I can just execute it. And for me, I'm using this as a guideline to drive some of my decisions. So when I'm implementing it, I can refer back to Clojure or refer back to libs on how they behave, and then I can have a baseline to say, hey, should I do the same thing over here? So anyway, enough talking. We haven't really do much yet. So first, this is just add a ratio execute test. So get rid of it so we don't have the extra things hanging around. So the first thing I'm going to do is renaming some classes. So as I said, what we want to do is to based on types, right? The add all these functions. This is right now is based on the functionalities, but then this is crossing across the all those functions, and then as time goes on, it will be harder to manage, right? So I want to set up some base, right? So on the string, I have this, and I'm calling it string type. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing for the other types that we have. The first one is this ratio. So I'm going to rename it to string type, ratio type. Okay. No. Ratio type. Okay, and then also in the interpreter, right? Ratio type. All right, so after all that, the code should pass, but it does not, because over here all of these are now broken, right? So that's another reason want to avoid this, because you can see that there are 38 mentions of the ratio class. I want to reduce it. So well, the good thing is it's pretty simple to fix. Just do a replace. There you go, everything is passed, right? TTD, right? So that's good. Now we have renamed this. So this is the radio type. So that's it. Well, we're not going to do too much yet. I'm going to just renaming all these classes first, so that I have cleaned those up. Then we will do other things, right? So this will be a refactor and rename ratio to ratio type, right? Because we have all the tests, we're good. So then the other thing is this list. List is another type that in the system. And one interesting thing is when I creating this class in PHP, I cannot call it list because for whatever reason, this is complaining. I don't know if this is because of IntelliFaints complaining it, or is actually the PHP complaining, but in either way, it's complaining. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. So the list will become a list type from list function, and then also do a rename overall list function. So you can see, well, in this case, this is easier. It's just in the interpreter, right? So then that's it. We are good. Okay. Rename list fn to list type. All right. Oh, let's get some music. So what else, right? We have some error. Those error, of course, when not needed, I don't want to add any suffix and prefix on the class, right? Because the name of the class should be clear on what they do. So these are the the if I keep it as a keyword because they are kind of special things, and actually so as this list type and ratio type. Some of these at the end I might make them a keyword. The reason or the difference between a keyword or non-keyword in this case is just the do you have the ability to override it or not. And we'll be pretty careful with that. The if statement definitely is one of the things that you can override, because if not, it's bad, right? This base type, the string type ratio, and the list properly will also be marked as keywords, but we'll see. Okay. So with that, then we have this. So now, how are we going to do this, right? Since we want to turn it up, well, kind of upside down, meaning now the types will handle the functionality rather than the functions handling particular types or types. Well, that's the problem. Then we need a way for the type to say, hey, I support this, right? So, or maybe not, or maybe you just pass it in, so the types will by default have those functions. All right, and I don't know exactly what I'm going to do yet. I have some idea, so let's see. Right, first we have this invoke function. These are okay. We have this create function, which is okay, and then let's see, we have operation. What I'm thinking is about is an operation. So let me just type it out and think. So it's a public static function and op, and then yes, it will take context, and then the operation, and then either code or probably more like argument, because the particular operations already know what it is. So from here, then I can say, oh, for add, right? For add, then I can call this to something like radio type OP, and then pass in the context, and then the op is plus, and then the argument, right? Whatever argument there is in this case is adding two numbers, the P and the V, like that, right? Something like that. So in order to achieve that, first of all, we need to think about whether can we just blindly pass it in, or if there is some factory pattern that we can do so that we don't have to call this directly. Because in order to call this, there are two ways to do it. One, well, I mean in the direct way, right? One is we're still doing the same thing. If this is P, if the parent or the previous value is a ratio, then we call this and then return it, right? That's one way, but this still require us to know about this radio type, right? Then still it means that in the future, when there is another type, like say the complex number come in, we still need to do the same, right? So we don't want that. What we want is this. So here I have the context execute, right? Then it start with this number 0. This is an array reduce, and start with this 0, and then so this P is 0, and then say for example the V might be a radio type, right? Then we need to do something. And then also one more thing to add is for the operations, there might be it might support a unlimited number of arguments, meaning the function is a variadic functions. But when we are handling it based on type, we not necessarily have to support that, because in the particular type, it might not support the variadic case. But that's something I probably need to think about to see if that makes sense. But if I can actually do that, just do 2 at a time and reduce it and go to the next one and reduce it and so on, is probably will work and is the cleanest way to do so. And so that's how I would go approach it. All right, so but that's later on, right? Right now, let's just focus on this first. So what we get for this is we are doing add. We are doing an add, and then I have this 0 because it's kind of just lazy to start with an identity of add, so that I don't have to pick out a value, right? However, I might change that. I might change this whole thing. And well, let me start with some pseudocode, right? While count arguments is greater than 0, then argument equals to the first one, and then I will say, okay, the context, instead of execute, something like this, and do an add, and then we do a and then we pass in the rest, right? So essentially, I want to do an array shift of arguments, and then over here I pass the remaining arguments in there. Okay, and then that will go in and grab the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. You know, something like that. Of course, it's not really a while loop. What can I do? Currently, in the execution context, there are these functions: add, gather, execute, and box. Right. So I will need to have another one, and then let's think about the naming later. For now, let's just do that value, and then the operation, and then the argument. Yeah, I probably will do arguments because I'm thinking maybe there's some case that they will the specific operation on that specific type would consume multiple arguments, not just one. I really can't see when that would be the case, because although that is one of the benefit of a prefix notation, that you can have a function, a prefix operator, and then add on multiple values plus the variadic functions, right? But in other language that's doing infix notation, so a plus b instead of plus ab, right? Plus ab is prefix notation. A plus b is the infix notation. It's infix because the operator is in the middle between the two variables. In that case, you really is the first type, and then add the second type, right? It's not second type plus second type plus second type. So I don't think that will be needed, but I'm going to keep this here for now, so that it will able to decide what to do with this. And what this will do, I'm just again pseudocoding, is it will have a result, and then have some remaining arguments, right? So that means if the if it consumes the value, if it's support, or basically that type support that function, then it will consume the arguments and then return it and go to the next step. If not, it will remain the same and then do something. I don't know yet. It might work, it might not work, but we'll see. We'll see. In either way, that's the thought process. That's the thought process. So now, in order to support this, then now we need to talk about types. All right, we need to start talk about types. If it's if the first value is an array, well, or maybe I should say list or ratio, that's pretty simple because I know the type will look like this, right? Say 1, 3, or for list, it would be a list of A, B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on, like that, right? And then it is very easy for me to pick out which is which. But now in this case, actually it's not that bad because we only have a few types available that's needed. So just the basic type, right? Boolean, strings, null, and number, right? Number / integer. And although in the specification is 2 different things, but well, probably not much of a difference. And in PHP, we can easily still figure out what's the type. By just check what's the value, right? So that part is not that bad, right? So then for the first case over here, since we are working on the add, the first case we need to indicate is number, right? So we already have a number over here, but I have not changed it to number type. So let me also change that. All those will fail because I have this code. Let's comment this out. Then back to here. Op array reduce. Oh, I have this. Oh yeah, no, that's on this line. Okay, so that's good. Remove this line. Well, this is so simple, I don't really have to keep it. So this goes back to that. What's the change in this listing? What's the change in this? Oh, we're changing the number to number type. So and then we are adding this. We can just this case pick it out, right? And then another refactor, rename number to type, right? Okay. And then since I'm doing that, and then now I have number type, I have string type, and might as well also add boolean type.php. Not going to do anything. I'm just creating a file, and then also null type.php. All right. So, and then I can add these two in, although it's really doing nothing. That's okay. And even say it as a chore, right? Add null type and boolean type, right? So the only thing left is array and object, right? But we're not dealing with that yet, and the array is essentially handled by list. Right, so add these two in, then we are good to go. So let's go back to the execution context. So now here, then we can see, let's see if is number. Actually, instead of is number, I say was a number type. And then I have this, I used to have these two functions, is numeric only and is numeric form. I want to keep it small. Let's say is. If that is a number type, then I'll let it handle it. So number type, you can see that right now I'm not adding any tests yet, right? But I have not added any tests yet by just doing some refactoring, because I already have a bunch of tests to cover, essentially cover my ass, right? And but now here is something that I might add tests for. But let me think. Is really this. Yeah, let me just call this, just rename this. Yep, that's all it is. Just rename this is. Call it a day. Okay. So if this is a number type, then I want to return number type or originally say OP, and maybe this sounds more like handle. And then you get the context so that it can do other things down the line, that's for sure. And then I'm going to reorder the type data, the parameter a little bit. Okay, like that. And then this is also the ob, and then value. thing is, what I'm thinking right now is maybe I can also combine this in, but then this become dangerously close to just this, right? Because this inside is just that array. Like say using the add example that we have is just the add example is something like this, for example, right? So in there we are basically just taking the one out, and then we say plus, and then the remaining is 2, right? So it seems like we just bounce back and forth, right? We just, from the execution context, we bounce it to the add call, and then the add call bouncing it back to the type, right? So maybe at the end we don't even need the add class, right? It's completely not necessary. Maybe that's what we will end up with. At this point, I don't know. There is a high chance it will end up with that, because it's a paradigm shift, right? We shifted from the function based to type based, although it still is not really OO, but it's type based, or is, at least I should say, is classless OO. And in order to do this, I need to pop out the function, right? So this is really actually go ahead and rename the operation or the function, because op is a better name than function, because now we start to have keywords, like say if statement, and that is not really a function, right? Although yeah, we can still call that, but operation is a little bit more generic. So since we picked that out, let's go back to here. Since we picked that out, and then this is really not. Do I really need to separate the first param? Well, I need to separate the first param over here anyway. So yeah, it doesn't make sense to combine them back and to make the code organized. Quote unquote combine it back together. So not really needed, and let's continue. So for the number type, we want to add a handle function. So the first thing is a context, and then the operator, value, and arguments. Or instead of calling value, let's call it subject. Right? No, come on. Subject. And right, so then over here is really kind of like a switch statement, right? And the op is finite. Array, this is array argument, okay. Operator is always a string, and subject number. I know the operation, right? And just that. Of course, it's kind of, it always can be a hash table or whatever to make it a little bit cleaner or faster, but yes. So with that, then we are now looking at this code, right? So we can quote unquote start moving some of the tests over here to make it work, but you know, let's continue this because we already have this code over here over there on that side, right? So we don't really add any rush in trying to do TDD over here because we already have that, and we just need to think and break it down so that it can handle what we want to handle. Okay. So now we have this subject. The subject is a number. Let me again copy this. Right. By the way, for you, those who wonder why I'm doing this and why I'm just using the PHP docs instead of using the type, because in newer PHP version, you can say this is an execution context like this, right? The reason is a personal reason because some of the codes I probably I'll be using it in at work, and then we have an older version of PHP at this moment, so I'm continue to using this way to do things. Okay, so don't kill me. All right. So so this is the add. So we know the subject is a number. We don't have to worry about it. So now is this, right? These arguments. So so we can try to handle everything in here, keep looping it, or we can recursively doing this. Right, and that's always the question, right? Do you want to do a loop? Or you don't want to do recurse, and the recurse way is typically produce a cleaner code. So that's what I'm going to do. So since this argument, since this is a add, well, I'm going to do we implement this. Is let's do the count of the arguments. So if count is 0, then I can just return, right? I don't need to do anything. So since I'm doing an add of myself with something that's empty, so let's go back to this example. So in the add test, not this case because we don't have the, oh yeah, so this shows that I still need that function, right? Because in case like this, I don't even have the subject, right? So that's what I have is still, well, will be still useful. It's just that yes, we need to do a bounce back and forth from the execution context to the function. And then from the function, bounce it back to the execution context when we have a subject. But when we don't, the functions need to handle it, right? And it depends on the function, it could do different things. So we are actually looking at this case, right? This is the case we're looking at. So the add will receive an array of just one element, the 0 or 3 over here, and then they will pick it out. Right, so let's visualize it over here. Well, I haven't added code in yet, right? So it will pick it out, and then this will call this execution context with this op to saying that, oh, I want to do a plus with the first value is this, and then the remaining value is placed over here. So So the 3 will be the value or the subject. Well, to avoid confuse ourselves, let's also call this subject, right, to make it a little bit easier. So this is a subject, and then this will be well, passed as a subject, and then the arguments will be empty. Right, so since the argument is empty, that will be the case. This will be empty, and then so the result is just this 3. Right, so at least I know I need to return the subject. Okay, so then the question though is, should I return the arguments? Right, should I return the? How do I signify that is the end of the operation? Very likely, just like this would be fine. Very likely, just like this would be fine. So, although I was saying, okay, we have those tests over here, but now it's time to hook it up. Make sure that this will work, right? So to do that, we are dealing with the add. We are not dealing with other stuff. So let's comment all this out and start like that. We still have the test over there, but we don't want it to distract our effort. So we want to focus on this. All right, so we have the add test, and then go back to add. Now instead of doing this, right, we want to say if no is 0, well, that is something specific to add, so that's okay. So say we want to say if count arguments is 0, then we return 0. Okay, and then let's comment this out first. Okay, if keyword, oh, because I was doing an add over here. Okay, that's fine. This one now is the second one, so we're good, right? The first test pass right now is here with 1 value. When there is an when the count is not 0, then we can get the subject will be equals to array shift arguments. So we get the first argument out, and then we can call the return context OP. Let me also rename that as handle. Okay, handle plus or just to keep it nice and clean, self key, right? And then put the subject in there and put the remaining arguments in there. Okay, so we pass that, right? This is still there, is a little bit troublesome, so let us, well, instead of doing that, comment that line out. Let me comment this whole thing out, or keep it as skipped. Yeah, okay, keep it like that, because I know I don't want, I won't have any commented out tests, so that's okay. All right, so now these 2 tests pass. So let's take a look at the next one. Right, I'm just reusing the test. I'm not really adding on to it, adding more stuff. So let's see. Let's close this. Doing this is now as expected because we haven't really taken care of the recursion. It's empty over here. We haven't do anything, right? So now the question is then we want to do the recursion. But if the count is not 0, and this is an add, so let's call it next, right? So array.shift arguments. So we get the next argument. So now, well, if I naively, I can just add them together and done, right? And let's do it naively for now, right? Press next. Okay. So this will add subject expected type next. Expected because this is next. Okay, it tried to complain me for that. That's actually kind of good. Is the interface working? Because oh, this number. Int, sorry, it's an int, so that it won't complain. But still, of course, this code is not working because we have not recursed, right? So the recurse side is, well, let's continue the naive way. Meaning context handle, right? We want to handle the operation. In this case, is the add. Okay, let me pass it in. Because of course, I can just say +sign, but then that violates, you know, I have two sources of truth, right? I have the key over here, and if I put in that violates it, and then also if I say add key is another place that I combine, you know, connected to. I don't want that, so I want to just do this. So this plus that, and then pass arguments. Okay, so this pass, let's pass it up in, although I already know that the case is add, right? But I'm still passing it in so that I don't have to do that. Yeah, add key. I'm referencing it. Then do I really need to pass it in? Does it hurt or not? Well, maybe. Well, anyway, this is cheap. This is cheap. I don't have to really worry too much about it. Okay, so let's do that for now. If I don't like it in the future, I will take it off. Right. Man, the keyframe is really still really bad. I don't know what's going on. Maybe later on try to figure this out. Yeah, and I will probably load some code. I'm also recording the session, so once I'm done with it, I might take a look at the recording and take a look at the live stream. It doesn't work, and then I re-upload. So anyway, with that, it passed, right? Then it passed. So since it passed, let's continue. This passed. And then now how about this one? No, it does not pass. Okay, so it fell over here for the first one. Okay, So now does not match array. I'm actually getting array. I am actually getting array. Why is that? Well, one way to find out. This will number type not found, could not found. What are you talking about? Okay, maybe let's get out composer dump. Let's reload it because I was renaming the class names, right? So maybe that's why. Cannot be found in number type. What are you talking about? Just-func number type could not be found in there. Okay, should be working. The test is working. Okay, maybe it's being cached. This because this is a VS Code extension. So let's see. Nani? The number type is here. What are you missing? What you don't understand? Number type the same is correct. The name is correct. The ratio type, all of those is also here, is okay. What the mail is going on? Why? Yeah. Why? Don't tell me the class name number type is also a special name. Because, but if not, this doesn't make sense. I didn't mistype anything. This is number type. Because in PHP PSR4, you know, the way to do the auto load thing is using the name of the file and the path needs to match with the class name, right? But that's what I have. And I can do this. Oh, no. This one. Okay. Okay. Better. Okay. So what happened is I tried to run the test on this class, but this is not a test. So in the PHP unit actually doesn't recognize, can find this file because it's not a test that it loads. The PHP unit is trying to load the test file as I specify over here. In well, I include this, and well, this is for coverage, right? Here the test suite is the _t. So when the PHP unit is load, it's only look for those files. So therefore, it's when they try to look up this file, it couldn't find it. That's why. Okay, so we have that, and then what are you printing out? You're not even printing out here. Now doesn't match interpret test case. By the way, this should allow me to connect, but oh, there is an error. Oh, the error is not being created. Okay, okay, makes sense. Because I haven't created any error yet. Right? And the reason is because this next is not a the subject, actually the subject, not just the oh, the subject over here. I was calling this get a key, get the subject, and then inside here here I just doing the number type, but that is the boolean type and the string type is outside. Okay, okay. So to get that test to pass, you know, the boolean 39, yeah, the boolean one, I need to implement the boolean first in order for that to pass, right? So all right, that's okay. I really wish that we could do some match over here. We don't have to do this, but well, it's the same thing, but similar thing, less convenient, but that's okay. Is subject return boolean type handle is of subject arguments. Okay. So now I have to implement that. Okay, we have the number type over here. Let's put the boolean type over here. So first of all, public static function is value, right? And naively, I'm just going to do implement that first. This is actually something I want to test, but let's fill in the rest first. Handle, right? So over here, handle. Let me copy this. Right, and then over here we say handle add. And then well, if that I don't need to. Here I'm saying that for add, I'm not going to play with you. I'm not going to entertain you, and I am going to tell you there is a type mismatch. And then the interesting thing comes in that we need to handle. Return null. Right. The subject, this is subject, that's fine. Now the question is this indexed. How do we know about the index, because right now we are distributing it up in the original code. As I can see here, I'm using a index over here in I++, so that I can get detail on which argument have that type mismatch, right? So here, how am I going to pass it in? How am I going to pass it in? For one, well, the subject itself. The subject itself, this is 0. Right? So